Okay, so this is a video about what you need when you want to get an iguana or you already have a baby iguana. Now, when you start off an iguana, you should know that they are not cheap animals to own. They are cheap to buy, but they're very complex and they can be a lot of work and a lot of expense and a lot of time to raise them right. And in this video, I'll try to show you what you need to start out with when you get a baby iguana. Okay, so you can start out building a small cage, or you can buy a tank. 55 to 65 gallon tank is really good. This is a 65 gallon wide, and that would be excellent for a starter tank for the first year or so. But you need the right substrate. You can use reptile carpet, butcher's paper, or just regular newspaper. But don't use any of the substrates they sell in stores. These are dangerous and kill iguanas every day. Now you'll need supplements as well, and you can buy the Herptovite, which is a great multivitamin. You may need some calcium powder, and you want to use the Nutrabac DF. Now this stuff is great. It'll get rid of salmonella in your reptiles, and it will also help babies and adults digest as well as wild iguanas. Okay, so now we'll move on to lighting, and this is Mega Ray combo lighting. At the top you have the Mega Ray UVB light. On the left you have a heat projector. In the middle you have a compact fluorescent non-UVB light, and on the right you have a halogen floodlight. Now these all add every color in the rainbow plus heat, and it gives them a more natural look. They can see in full color. It boosts their immune systems to the levels they would have outside in the wild under natural sunlight, and it just makes them feel good. And this is 21st century reptile lighting. There's nothing else on the market that can compare, and it's the only thing I will use on my iguanas. Now on to meters and setting up our iguana habitats. You can see I got a tape measure up at the top, then the temp gun next to that. At the bottom on the left is the lux meter for checking how bright the lights are, and then on the right hand side is the green and black UVB handheld test meter, and this is one of the most important meters you could have because it'll tell you how much UVB your iguana is getting from their lights, so that you can set up the lights so they get the right amount of UVB, but you can also test your lights so you know when they need to be replaced, and it's extremely important to have. Okay, so we'll move on to setting up the tank now. You can see on the left end we have the halogen light for a basking spot without UVB, and we have a hide box and things for them to climb on and climb around in. And in the middle is where you would put the fluorescent light, because you have no heat there, just light and color, and that's where they can cool off if they need to. Then down the other end you would have the Mega Ray UVB light, which would give you UVA, and you'd have a halogen light if you needed more heat there, so that they would have the basking spot with the UVB. And this way they can photo and thermo regulate their bodies and get the right amount of UV that they need and the right amount of heat, and you won't force them to get UV when they don't want it by having just one light. So this way it works much better, and it gives them places in the middle to cool off where their food and their water would be, and you can put the newspaper or other substrate down at the bottom, and you want to make sure they get a lot of fresh air airflow through there, and they would be nice and healthy and happy inside of a cage like this. Okay, so some of you might be thinking, well, why do I need all those lights when I could just use the long fluorescent UVB light and a Qi? And you can see in this picture it's really dark. It may not look dark to our eyes, but this is what it looks like to them. These fluorescent lights do not put out a whole lot of light, and it looks like dusk or dawn to them, and they need a lot more light than this. So you might be thinking, well, hey, they make compact fluorescent UVB lights and they look brighter, so why not use those? And we've looked at them, and the only problem is that they don't consistently put out the same amount of UVB. Just a simple thing like putting them in different fixtures can magnify the amount of UVB they output by up to 10 times that amount. And when they put out that much and you don't have a UVB test meter to know what that bulb is putting out, You can take a healthy baby iguana or a bearded dragon, and like we have here, and before you know it, their eyes are burned by these lights. And you can see they're swole up, some of them recover, some of them are blind permanently. And then, if you don't have enough UVB, you can end up with this, a baby iguana with metabolic bone disease. They become seriously disfigured, can't eat, can't walk, and a lot of them end up dying. Now, indoors, most reptiles are colorblind, and if they're only under a UVB light, this is what we think it might look like to them. All the colors are wrong, and this is why I use combination lighting. Now here's an easy way to understand it. The top light is a halogen. You can see it's a lot more red in color. The bottom one on the left is the compact fluorescent, which gives out a lot of white and blue and purple. And the mega ray gives out a lot of green, UVB, and UVA, the fourth colors reptiles see. Now hopefully when you're done, your tank will look something like this. You have a hide box down one end, things to sit on, climb on, bask on, and you'll have the combination lighting. They'll have UVB lighting with heat down one end, then another basking spot down the other without UVB, and plenty of light all around. Good airflow, and this makes for a nice comfortable tank for a small iguana and maybe a bearded dragon or other type of sun-loving reptile. So if you get everything right, you can see we've got a baby gizmo here, and she's very alert, very bright colored, bright eyes, but also relaxed enough to either sleep in her hide box or not. And this setup will last you until you get about a year and a half to 2 years old, like Binti here. When he's about 2 foot long, then you want to start looking to move them out of that tank and into a cage. But when you go to build a bigger cage, you need to build the biggest thing you can to last as long as possible. Now the blue and white cage is Gizmo's old cage. It was 6 by 4 by 3, and she outgrew that by the time she got about 4.5 foot long. And the red and white cage is Woody's cage. That was 6 by 6 by 4, which is the bare minimum size cage I would ever put an adult iguana in, but I would not put 2 of them in there. If you want to have 2, they need a cage twice that size or the entire bedroom. Now large cages cost a lot of money, but you can save a lot if you build your own. But you gotta watch out for a few things. If you're using pine wood, the oil in the wood is very toxic, and there's a lot of chemicals in plywood, so they must be stained and sealed or primed and painted. And if you're going to use plexiglass, you got to use the type of sealant that you can use to patch up fish tanks that's safe for use with animals. And here's a price list of approximately what it will cost to raise and properly care for a baby iguana for the first 2 years.